It is 14 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. If you have just joined us, welcome to it. African Diaries, Sheila Ndikumana, but I'm not alone. This is going to be a rather interesting set of minutes as we come to the end of the show. Well, I suppose the last hour is what I should be saying. The music that has been the very last that you heard there, a beautiful one with Peruzzi and Fireboy, DML, and that one titled Saudi Love. Before that, we had Black Motion coming in with Oli M and that one titled Anyway. And that are some of the treats that we played you in order to, of course, keep you entertained, but also to lure you in. Hopefully, this was not a form of breadcrumbing. That's what I'm saying. If you are not familiar with the terminology of breadcrumbing, let me speed you up. Let me catch you up on what breadcrumbing is. Breadcrumbing is when someone gives you just enough attention, affection, and or communication to keep you interested. So the underpinning issue is that you must have an interest already. And so when they begin to do the bare minimum, you are still lingering on your interest or whatever it is that drew you to them initially. Now, they never commit. They always promise to, but it's not a real thing. I want you to think of breadcrumbs as, or rather breadcrumbing as leaving crumbs, and we gave you the analogy of a bird sort of picking away at those crumbs, following you, hoping that they would get a full meal. I don't know if birds think like that, but the idea is that that's what I want you to envision when we talk all things breadcrumbs. So joining me in studio, our digital specialist, she's also quite the individual. She's got quite a bit behind her name. I understand that she's in production. I understand that she's a communication specialist. I understand that she has a background in marketing. And I'm really excited to talk to you. Elaine!
I am also very excited to be speaking with you.
Welcome to African Diaries. Am I allowed to say welcome?
You are definitely supposed to say that I'm welcome because I've never been on this side of the studio before.
That's
actually.
fair. That's fair. So I was telling Nolo the same thing. I'm like, you deal with the show on the daily. You know, you make us look good on social media.
From a different angle, but being in front of the mic, a welcome is definitely appreciated. Yeah.
Let's try that again. Welcome to African
Thank you,
Diaries.
Sheila.
Elaine, listen, we're talking all things breadcrumbing, and I'm just like, I hear the men's end, right? We know how they make you feel interested and you think you're in love and oh my goodness, I want to just call him and he hasn't spoken to me today and we know what they're doing because we've publicized it a lot. I wonder what women do when they breadcrumb. What do we do?
I think it's more of the same thing as well.
Okay, tell me more.
I'm just assuming, well, I've never breadcrumbed anyone, hopefully.
Okay.
But I'm assuming it would be more of the same thing. You know, you
Yeah.
just drop a text, hey, how you doing? Missing you or thinking about you. And then you never really follow up on it. So I'm thinking it would be the same strategy.
Yeah.
And I guess it would also have the same kind of like damaging impact because I'm thinking in the long run, what impact does it have on the person that you're doing this to?
That is so interesting. And I'll say this because I'm thinking to myself, we're not usually the ones that pursue, right? We are pursued as women, right? So you'll have the pursuer come to the pursuee, if that's how we say it. And he's the one who, initiates for the most part. So how do women initiate when it's not their natural posture?
I don't think it comes from the initiation of a woman. I'm just going to give you a scenario here because I think it comes from maybe a guy will be approaching you.
Yes.
And you can just see, okay, maybe I'm kind of interested, but I'm not really sure. So you're kind of like giving that extra spice, like, okay, let me see where exactly it's going to go. So I'm thinking it would be coming from that perspective, not necessarily that you go out there with the intent to find somebody that you'll breadcrumb. I think it comes from, with me, what I've observed is what I've observed.
All right, man.
Yeah, what I've observed is a guy would go up to a lady and he's expressing interest in her, and she's probably kind of like interested, but there's just something that she's just not getting fully about this guy. He's not really hitting a full 100%, but she's like, okay, let me just keep this going and just see where it will go. So she just gives him just enough just to keep him interested, just to see what other things are there that maybe can just pique her interest further for her, while she's still deciding, do I like this guy? Do I not like this guy? Do I want to pursue this? Do I not want to pursue this? I would assume that would be also a type of breadcrumbing. But, you know, I don't think it would be with intent. Okay, I'm going to walk up to this person and do that. I think it just so happens when you're still trying to figure out if this person has all those characteristics maybe that you are interested in or that you're looking for.
That's really interesting. And I say that because how are you supposed to react? I'm not so... Listen, you came to me.
Exactly.
I wasn't looking at you.
Exactly.
You know, and so when you decide, listen, Sheila, let's do X, Y, Z, it's not really something I'm... You know, I didn't initiate it. So I'm not going to come with my 100%. I'm not an eager beaver in that space.
Exactly.
Right? So would that be breadcrumbing?
I'm thinking it also falls in that category.
That's
But
so
I'm
interesting.
thinking that's probably maybe a lighter version of it. It's not as malicious as when I intentionally go out, find somebody, make them interested, and then just pull away. And then whenever I decide, I don't know what happens in the mind of a breadcrumber, but maybe whenever they decide, okay, I need a little bit of attention now. And I wonder, is it linked to maybe narcissism as well? Because it feels like it could be, because it has a very malicious element to it.
Yikes. Listen, I will share with you some of the psychology behind breadcrumbing, right? So it's said that one is seeking validation. So that attention that you get from this person at 100% when you're not doing much validates you. I am important. You know, don't say that, right? The fear of commitment is another reason why people don't get into or step into the space of breadcrumbing, because it's like, I like you, but I don't know. And that I don't know is not because you did something wrong. It's because I don't want to commit, but I don't want to admit to myself that I'm not ready for a commitment. Another reason is control and power. Now that is true diabolical natures, okay? And then the last one is loneliness or boredom.
Hey, Bo, can't you find a better activity to do than to play with people's emotions?
Apparently you're the activity. Listen, it is 21 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. We take a quick breather, and then we're going to be introducing another guest to this conversation. Beautiful music coming through Thames with that one titled Me and You. Welcome to African Diaries. Sheila Ndikumana keeping you company. And I've got you for the next 33 minutes as we continue conversations concerning breadcrumbing. Listen, if you're just joining the subject matter and you're saying, Sheila, wait, for 10, 12, and 16.3 marks, what is going on? I want to give you just an overview of what breadcrumbing is. Breadcrumbing is when someone gives you enough attention, affection, communication, and this is to keep you interested, but they're not really looking to commit to you. They're not really looking to follow through with this interest. And so you think of it as you leaving breadcrumbs for an animal to follow. And the reason I keep on going back to the animal instance is because of this particular audio. I want us to get into it, right? Reed Choi, who is an influencer, said something very interesting. So he's role-playing between himself and himself. And he asks the question, hey, why is your girlfriend so in love with you when you are basically doing nothing for her? And this is what he had to say. I want us to get into that, but I also want you to send through your commentary, your thoughts, your views, your questions, because we have two amazing individuals joining us in just a short bit. We'll have Tlhakele Bobo Seretse, who joins us, and he will, of course, give us the male's view. If you're not familiar with Tlhakele's work, he launched his solo career as a musician in 2014, releasing the single Rise. This track gained significant traction, promoting both the song and a movement, encouraging South Africans to unite beyond the socio-political divides that we find ourselves in. He expressed big ambitions for the track and its message that resonates widely, not just with South Africa, but the continent at large. He performed at the 2014 FIFA World Cup closing ceremony in Brazil, including the Fan Fest event in Rio. And he did this with over 18,000 people. That means double that, if you want to know the number of eyes that were watching him as he did his thing. And he joins us to give us the male perspective. We also have joining us in studio, we have Elaine Wengani, who is a communication specialist, a marketer, and the digital specialist for this particular show and for Channel Africa. And so that conversation comes your way. For now, I want us to get back to that audio by Reed Choi. Yeah, that enactment, man, it does something. It does a thing or two.
Bro, why is your girlfriend so in love with you when you treat her like garbage? Have you ever heard of breadcrumbing? Breadcrumbing? No, what's that? Well, you see, at the beginning of our relationship, I would shower her with love, gifts, all the attention that she could desire. 100% of my effort. This is what we call love bombing. Also, I can get my hooks in, get her addicted to my personality, convince her that I am her ideal man. But, of course, as time would go by, I would take away a breadcrumb. 5% at most. Nothing for her to notice. But even if she did notice, nothing for her to complain about. It's just 5%. Now, all of a sudden, 100% of my effort becomes 95, 95, 90. Do you see where I'm going? Now, of course, it doesn't go all the way down to zero that easily, for memory is such a fickle thing. But so when she does complain, what do you think I do then? Gaslight her? No, that comes later. No, I just give back the 5%. 80 becomes 85. But the sinister thing there is, all of a sudden, she's so grateful for 85 when I was originally giving her 100. 85 becomes a new 100 for her, the new 10 out of 10 of happiness for her. And then I just continue this process of whittling her down all the way to 0. At which point she'll be thanking me genuinely for using her like a dog. Why would anyone tolerate that? Oh, it's simple calculus. Losing 5 from 100 is 5%, but gaining 5 from 5, you just doubled. You've gained 100%. What is breadcrumbs to a king but a feast to a peasant?
32 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African Time. Elaine is with me in studio. That is Elaine Wengani, who is a communication specialist, a marketer, and digital specialist for Channel Africa. Before we introduce Tlakalebo Seretsani, ma'am, your face turned green for a second there.
Because I'm like, we are going to die from all these love bombs. I am seething inside. I've never been this... okay, maybe angry is the right word. Yeah. Like, what?
It is a thing. It is a practice. Listen, to give us the male gaze, the male understanding, we are going to touch base with none other than Tlakalebo Seretsani, who is a music compiler, if you will. He is a musician at heart. He's done quite a bit. One such instance is that 2014 FIFA World Cup closing ceremony performance in Brazil. This including Fan Fest event in Rio de Janeiro, attended by 18,000 people. He also performed frequently in Dubai, and in 2012. Look at the mathing me out. He performed at a private event, the wedding of FIFA Secretary General in Italy, which opened doors to more international bookings. Mr. Bo, welcome to African Diaries. It is an honor to have you this evening. We're talking all things breadcrumbing, sir. I just want to gauge just your thinking. When I say breadcrumbing, what comes to mind?
Firstly, good evening, and thank you so much for having me. There was quite an introduction, and I appreciate the accolades. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you and your listeners. Very interesting topic you have going, and the minute you mention breadcrumbing, it feels like some type of leftover, some type of. It does not feel like the main course. It doesn't feel like the best of the meal.
Not the best of the meal. Not the best of the meal.
Not the best part of the meal, yes.
Sure. I don't know if you had an opportunity to hear Reed Choi's in acting, right? So he plays himself against himself, and he is one part of himself is addressing the next, and he asks this gentleman to say, why does your girlfriend love you so much, yet you barely do anything for her? I want to gauge the male stage. Listen, Elaine was very, very particular to let us know that she does not breadcrumb. So if you want to do the same, it's okay. Start with that. But we want to gauge just the headspace one ought to be in order to step into this thing. It's not a relationship, right? But this person is willing to step into a relationship with you. And then you begin to pull away. What headspace need a man be in for that to happen?
He probably might have experienced something that he had not anticipated, or he must have been turned off, or he might have probably seen something other than what he was expecting. So something rather repulsive, maybe, or something that turns him off, or something that makes him less interested, for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's coming top of mind. I mean, I'd have to unpack it more, I think, while we go. But I think that's what I would think, as a first instance, is to say, or it could be that it could be the chase. It could be that after the chase, or after maybe trying to, meet up with her or whatever, and suddenly he's done that, to find that maybe, she doesn't quite look the way that he thought she did, or maybe she is not what he saw in this current world. Maybe she doesn't look like what he saw on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of thinking. Different scenarios, but as the first kind of top of mind here.
Elaine, I want to turn over to you. Kakale said something really interesting. He said that maybe, just maybe, this man doesn't meet your expectation, right? So you go on your first date and you're wowed, right? Because that's the first encounter, I suppose. Second encounter, you start seeing things that don't make sense. Like, why do you pick your nose in public? It's little nuances about people that sometimes throw us off. With that being said, why do you think a woman would stay knowing that this isn't something she wants in a relationship?
I think it's also about options. I think whether the person is being breadcrumbed or the person is breadcrumbing, at the end of the day, I feel like what they're trying to do is just to keep their options open up until that ideal person maybe pops up.
Yeah.
I think it's also about an element of that, like, okay, I just have this fling or thing that will keep me busy until my score 10 arrives. So I think it could be that.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's also about self-confidence issues, maybe. And maybe that's just a hope that, okay, as time goes on, maybe I'll end up getting that full level commitment, which unfortunately it seems from this scenario may never even come. So it's quite heartbreaking to have to think about these scenarios.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Here's my problem. It feels like women are the only ones that have super hope. Bo, am I wrong? I feel like we are there. We are waiting. He's going to change. He's going to, persevere. He's going to outgrow this strange withdrawal that he has, and is going to accept me at some point. Are we the only ones who do that?
There's I can relate to it, maybe being a general behavior perhaps that most guys would be guilty of. Therefore females would feel that way, ladies would feel that way. But I do believe that it is also something that as guys we experience, especially when you are interacting with somebody maybe who is a profile higher than you. If it's somebody that's maybe more established or more, as far as like a career, somebody who's more dominant than you are, you might be hoping that either they will change their the way they where they can see themselves with you, and where you are adequate, or you're hoping that at some point they will want to give you their best, and they will want to take things to the next level with you.
Elaine, here's my thinking. That's what we women do generally, right?
Yeah,
The aspiration is always above you,
exactly.
right? What happens when you fall for that person who's not necessarily, the standard is not, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say. This is not an aspirational standard according to societal standards. This is somebody who you enjoy's company, I suppose. Somebody who provides a sense of warmth that women look for. Why? How do we find ourselves in those predicaments? Being breadcrumbed.
I think it's exactly that. The connection is there, but it's at a very superficial level. So they're giving you something of what you need.
Yeah.
They're just not giving you everything of what you're needing. So I guess that 5% at that time will have to make do. I don't know how, because I'm supposing the side effects in the long run will be greater. But I'm thinking that could be a part of it. They are ultimately giving you something of what you need, something of what you desire, even if it's not 100% of it. And it's so sad.
Listen, for me personally, I think whether you are being breadcrumbed or you are the bread crumber, I think that there are psychological issues that we need to sort of highlight, right? And Bo, I'm going to turn over to you. I know that no one's a psychologist in the room, but I want us to talk as people on the ground, right? I want us to talk about the extent to which we are affected by relationships. It could be something that you witnessed in the homestead. It could be something that you learned from your friends. But to what extent need this be an experience you've had such that it's something that you practice? Because I can see someone do something bad and say, no, I'm not going to do that. But we've made it a part and we've sort of integrated it into who we are. But for men, what's that one experience that sort of makes you go, okay, even me, I'm breadcrumbing. Why not?
Whenever you talk about relationships and you talk about things that have to do with feelings, like, logic flies out the window often. And sometimes when I'm even listening to you making so much sense, the minute it applies to you, it's a completely different story. And firstly, I want to speak from that perspective to say it's something that, as a man, or from a man's perspective, it can easily happen to you. And when it happens to you, I guess you feel like a victim, or you feel that it has a very negative impact on you, depending on obviously what you were hoping to achieve with that person. And it can affect your confidence moving forward, and it can affect how you then look at relationships. But the funny part about it is, it's probably what you might do as well as a man if you found yourself in the same situation. So it's a very tricky situation to explain. I struggle a lot with sometimes articulating something from a neutral perspective until I've gone through it. But yeah, as far as this topic is concerned, I think it's something that from a man's perspective, it's something that one can easily do without even realizing that that's exactly what you're doing. And to some people, it might actually be a game. It might be quite a stupid game.
Listen, Elaine, one thing that we are told to do when it comes to breadcrumbing is, and avoiding breadcrumbing, is setting boundaries. Do you think we know how to set boundaries?
If you don't know how to set boundaries, you need to learn.
Yeah.
Because I feel like then you'll just end up being given all of this little pretense and still coming back for more. And it's not really serving you. It's not taking you anywhere. You're probably just wasting your time with somebody who's not even gonna settle down in the long run in any case. And it might have devastating impacts on you in the long run and your ability to formulate relationships. So I think it's important as a woman, and maybe even as a guy, to formulate boundaries. Like, what is it that you're willing to deal with, And what is it that is a complete deal breaker? Because I think that's the only way you'll be able to protect yourself and be able to move forward. So it's important. If you don't have boundaries or you don't know how to set boundaries, it's very important to start learning.
I'm asking this because more often than not, women run with their heart first. Right? Yeah, he's called me first. Oh my goodness. You are so mesmerized by the experience that you forget, wait, whoa, I need to, gauge self. Is this good for me? And I'm saying this as a woman. Bo, listen, I'm not taking away any experience from a man. And so just to turn over to you and gauge you, do men go through the same thing where they run first with their heart and then their mind catches up after some time?
Absolutely. In fact, in these interesting times that we live in, I find that guys are the ones that are often hoping for something more, something more, and then, with a lot of women now focusing on personal development and focusing on a lot of other things, being in a relationship might just be like something that they're not doing with like real intentions of building something. It just forms part of a social element of their lives. But when it comes to now certain serious things, it's like maybe a relationship, it's a weekend thing, or it's that thing as a groove, or just that thing so that I'm able to do what people in relationships do. But there's a word, elokshin, when they say umuntu yakfatela, meaning someone takes you serious, or takes what you are doing with them, or takes your relationship serious. So in this case, umuntu akakfateli, meaning they don't take you serious, man. They like the thought of chilling with you. They like the thought of maybe doing like social stuff with you, but they're not really trying to connect with you beyond that. They don't see themselves as settling down with you, and actually they don't want to have that conversation that has to do with settling down, you know what I'm saying, or taking things to a very real level. That's what I would say. I know for a fact that it's what a lot of guys are experiencing these days, which seems to be maybe an exact opposite of what used to happen, where the ladies were the ones who were more intentional and more serious about their relationships, and the guys would be the ones kind of wanting to still play around or wanting to still have their options open. So I would say now it's kind of the tables have turned in a way.
The tables have turned in a way. Listen, for the very last question, I want us to get vulnerable in the room. All right, I'm going to start off with you, Elaine.
Okay.
Have you ever been breadcrumbed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have. And the complexity with breadcrumbing is it comes with love bombing as well. So once they start to pull away, you'll obviously as a person complain like, hey, you're withdrawing. Is something wrong? Are we maybe ending this? No. And then the behavior changes. And now all of a sudden they're sweet, they're kind, they're attentive. But then that lasts only for a very limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And then you go right back to being breadcrumbed again. So I've experienced that. And I must admit, it was very difficult to remove myself from that situation. But for the sake of my sanity and my happiness, I had to, because I was able to see the pattern now. It took me a long time, admittedly. But eventually I was able to see that, this situation, I'm being breadcrumbed here and I need the full meal. So bye.
I need the full meal. Did you identify it as breadcrumbing when it was happening? Was that the terminology you were using?
That's not the terminology I was using. I think the terminology that I had in my head at that time was that I was being played. That's the word that came to my head. Like, this one is playing with me, playing and toying with my emotions. Like one day you're up, one day you're down, then you disappear for a couple of days, then you come back. Oh, I was busy. And then all of a sudden, because I can see that you're able to pay attention, because when you're love bombing, you do all of that. And then all of a sudden it's withdrawn. It's called techie. Like, this game ain't fun. No.
Hey, Mr. Bo, as a parting, I suppose, shot, Firstly, have you been breadcrumbed, and how did you overcome that?
Absolutely, I've been, and before knowing the term, I wouldn't. That's not what I would have called it, but it makes so much sense, you know. Um, but I guess this is the one common thing that I would share with Elaine is exactly how she felt about it, you know. Where a person would today be extremely excited and extremely, you know, great with you, and then the next day you can't even figure out if they actually want to be with you or not, and it ends up being like a normal thing, you know, where you're starting to think, okay, as part of your relationship, you know, there's just times where, you know, maybe you want to be away simply because it does not feel like home. It doesn't feel like this person has anything with you. And then at some point, you know, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm not gonna play second best, you know, and I'm not gonna be sitting here hoping that somebody's gonna be consistent and they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna be always or most of the time excited to be with me. Let me get out of here, you know. So I agree 100% with Elaine. In fact, I share the sentiment, and then it really shows that as guys we go through the same. So I guess in conclusion, we do go through the same. I've been through it, and at some point I was like, no, I'm done here, you know. I absolutely know, you know, what I bring in terms of value, and if I don't receive, you know, anything matching or anything, you know, worth anything, then I'm out.
And on that note, folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's a pleasure having this conversation with you, Sheila and
Thank you.
Tlhagales.
Sure. Listen, I
Thank
feel
you.
enlightened, Mr. Bo. Thank you so much. We can't wait for the new music. I'm echoing that.
Amy, thank you so
I'm
much.
speaking it into, what do people say, the universe it is? Yes?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and there absolutely is some great music on the way, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys pretty soon.
The voice there of Bobo Siritsani joining us this evening, Tlhagale Bo Siritsani, who is a singer, the crooner behind that 2014 release, Rise. It is 52 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. In studio with me is the lovely Elaine Vengani, who is a communication specialist, a marketer, and a digital specialist for Channel Africa. Listen, I'm going to give you some time to think on what has been said. Yeah? Think on it, and we'll get back.
From Cape to Cairo, every beat tells a story. It's African Diaries on Channel Africa.